Read the passage below and answer the questions that follow. Remember, you're also getting a grade on your annotations, so make sure that you're pausing the video while I read and making really strong 3 to 5 word annotations. The text is called The Harvest. The following story is part of a book entitled Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe. In this scene, the main character, Okonkwo, has gone to Nwakibi, an older farmer in his Nigerian village. "I have come to you for help," he said. "Perhaps you can already guess what it is. I have cleared a farm but have no yams to sow. I know what it is to ask a man to trust another with his yams, especially these days when young men are afraid of hard work. I am not afraid of work. The lizard that jumped from the high iroko tree to the ground said he would praise himself if no one else did. If you give me some yam seeds, I shall not fail you." Nwakibi cleared his throat. "It pleases me to see a young man like you these days, when our youth has gone so soft. Many young men have come to me to ask for yams, but I have refused, because I knew they would just dump them in the earth and leave them to be choked by weeds. When I say no to them, they think I am hard-hearted, but it is not so. Anike the bird says that since man has learned to shoot without missing, he has learned to fly without perching. I have learned to be stingy with my yams, but I can trust you. I know it as I look at you. As our father said, you can tell ripe corn by its look. I shall give you twice 400 yams. Go ahead and prepare your farm." Okonkwo thanked him again and went home feeling happy. He knew that Nwakibi would not refuse him, but he had not expected he would be so generous. He had not hoped to get more than 400 seeds. He would now have to make a bigger farm. He hoped to get another 400 yams from one of his father's friends at Asiuzo. The year that Okonkwo took 800 seed yams from Nwakibi was the worst year in living memory. Nothing happened at its proper time. It was either too early or too late. It seemed as if the world had gone mad. The first rains were late, and when they came, lasted only a brief moment. The blazing sun returned more fierce than it had ever been known, and scorched all the green that had appeared with the rains. The earth burned like hot coals and roasted all the yams that had been sown. Like all good farmers, Okonkwo had begun to sow with the first rains. He had sown 400 seeds when the rains and the heat returned. He watched the sky all day for signs of rain clouds and lay awake at night. In the mornings, he went back to his farm and saw the withering tendrils. He had tried to protect them from the smoldering earth by making rings of sisal leaves around them. But by the end of the day, the sisal rings were burned dry and gray. He changed them every day and prayed that the rain might fall in the night. But the drought continued for 8 market weeks, and the yams were killed. Some farmers had not planted their yams yet. They were the lazy, easy-going ones who always put off clearing their farms as long as they could. This year, they were the wise ones. They sympathized with their neighbors with much shaking of the head, but inwardly they were happy for what they took to be their own foresight. Okonkwo planted what was left of his seed yams when the rains finally returned. He had one consolation. The yams he had sown before the drought were his own, the harvest of the previous year. He still had the 800 from Nwakibi and the 400 from his father's friend, so he would make a fresh start. But the year had gone mad. Rain fell as it had never fallen before. For days and nights together it poured in violent torrents and washed away the yam heaps. Trees were uprooted and deep gorges appeared everywhere. Then the rain became less violent. But it went from day to day without a pause. The spell of sunshine, which always came in the middle of the wet season, did not appear. The yams put on luxuriant green leaves, but every farmer knew that without sunshine, the tubers would not grow. Okonkwo remembered that tragic year with a cold shiver throughout the rest of his life. It always surprised him when he thought of it later that he did not sink under the load of despair. He knew that he was a fierce fighter, but that year had been enough to break the heart of a lion. Since I survived that year, he always said, I shall survive anything. He put it down to his inflexible will. All right, you've reached the end of your story. You need to pause the video and write a genre-based thinking job right here in this blank spot. Remember, you get graded on your genre-based thinking job and you get more points if yours is more accurate. So take your time and look back in the story if you need to. You can play the video again when you're ready to start the questions. All right, we are going to answer the questions. You are also getting a grade on your testing strategy, so make sure you are using process of elimination, you're writing the answer above your question, and you're looking back in the text to tag your answers. Let's start with number 1. Number 1, how do paragraphs 1 and 2 most contribute to the story? A, by demonstrating how difficult it is to farm in Nigeria. B, by describing the setting of the story. C, by showing how Okonkwo is able to farm. D, by establishing Okonkwo's main conflict with Nakwibi. 2. Which idea is introduced in paragraph 6? A, the year was the worst on record for growing yams. B, Okonkwo had enough yam seedlings to replant and begin again mid-season. C, Okonkwo wished he had waited until after the rains. D, Okonkwo was able to borrow more seeds so that he could replant them. 3. Nakwibi says, as our father said, you can tell a ripe corn by its look. What does this image reveal about Okonkwo's character? A, he looks younger than he actually is. B, he is very knowledgeable about different crops. C, he seems like someone who can handle a challenge. D, he is well respected by the village elders. Number 4, which detail would be most important to include in a summary of the story? A, it pleases me to see a young man like you these days when our youth has gone so soft. B, they were the lazy, easygoing ones who always put off clearing their farms as long as they could. C, Inike the bird says that since men have learned to shoot without missing, he has learned to fly without perching. D, the year that Okonkwo took 800 seed yams from Nakwibi was the worst year in living memory. 5. Reread this sentence from paragraph 4. The earth burned like hot coals and roasted all the yams that had been sown. The simile suggests that A, the yams were perfectly cooked for a meal. B, the heat in the ground destroyed the yam seedlings. C, the ground around the yams blackened and got very hot. D, the earth around the yams caught fire and ruined the yams. Okay, this is your last question. I'm going to read the question and you're going to write one paragraph as a response. So I want you to think about all the pieces of a paragraph that you know. Your claim, your context, your evidence, and your analysis. Here's the question. What is a theme expressed in the harvest? Use at least 2 details from the story to support your response. I'm going to read that one more time and then you're going to get started on your paragraph. What is a theme expressed in the harvest? Use at least 2 details from the story to support your response. You can now pause this video and write your answer on the lines on your paper. You are going to do awesome. I believe in you. If you need help or you need someone to read something again, raise your hand and all of your teachers will be able to help you. Good luck.